Welcome back to Meet Me in the Middle. Thank you for being here. I realize that I didn't really lay out what this podcast is all about succinctly in the first episode. I did that kind of on purpose as a cold open, kind of anonymous, to really be able to get some true feedback from both sides of the aisle, which I have now received. Generally speaking, I think most people would agree that the division in this country is the danger and is the enemy. But I wanted to make sure that I really laid it out here in this episode before I continue what this really is all about for me. My name is Neely. I am an American woman born in 1971. I come from descendants of European immigrants on both sides. Why does that matter? It does matter. It allows us all to be counted of our story of how we came to be here. So by laying it out, that is how I came to be, descendants of European immigrants, just like most of you. Unless you are descendants of natives or descendants of slaves, then you too are descendants of European immigrants. I think that's something that we can all agree on. My reason for starting this podcast was really what I saw as a necessity to get back to talking. Since 2015, I've spent hundreds of hours reading material and watching documentaries about our founding story from all the different perspectives of those who fought alongside us to gain our independence from the British Crown. Those groups of people that fought are just as equal in the telling of our founding story as we fought alongside each other, but their voices were silenced. Most of us only learned the one side of our founding, and that was the story told by the European immigrants. There are three distinctive groups that participated in our ability to become an independent nation. The natives, the slaves, and the European immigrants fought together against the British. After we gained our independence, the fight continued for years after. But when all was said and done, the only group that told the story of our founding were the European immigrants. And I feel it's important for us to truly understand our history from the perspective of the three stories of our founding, as that is where we can gain our truth, because they are all true. The division in this country is truly what will unfortunately be our demise. And the media and the social media are huge proponents in pushing us further apart due to the algorithms that have been built in. When the movie The Social Dilemma came out, I think for me that was really a revelation. It drove me to break the algorithm that I was trapped in, and it led me down a path of what seemed to be like an alternate universe. I realized that There are two sides fighting with their own set of facts because of the algorithms that we've been trapped in. All of us have been led down a path of division in an already divided society. Sometimes I feel like standing on the rooftop and yelling, "Stop!" We need a moment to silence the noise, look around us for understanding why everyone is fighting each other. The only fight that we should be fighting is the fight against those who divide us, who purposely keep us in these silos. That is the danger in America today. It's hard to switch sides. It's hard to see the other side as truth, as you're being flooded, we all are, with information that leads us to believe we are on the right side of history. This, unfortunately, has driven us to this place we are today. This division and this talk and this rhetoric used to really stay centralized in the world of politics. But somehow, due to this advancements of technology, without the checks and balances close behind, it's when these things are developed, leaves us in a place where not only have these views been in politics, they've moved into our lifestyles. I want us all to stop for a moment and understand what our fellow Americans are saying and why they feel so strongly about them. There are many topics that cause us to fight each other. However, we together are the strongest voices that can change the system that we are trapped in. It's gone on for so long, and now with the technology of social media pushing us forward, it has literally, truly created a chasm. It's no longer a divide or a side. It's a fight for the soul of this nation, a fight for who we are and what we want from our elected officials. Elected officials, not installed, elected. Our differing views creates a balance in this country that is really important. If you step back and think about what it would be like if only one side took full control forever, that is the scariest thought that I could think. The balance is where we find our ability to speak. The middle is the only place where we can share our voices without feeling attacked or criticized. It used to be that we had friends on both sides of the aisle, and no matter what, we could lay our politics aside as a subject to not be broached and still have a drink and a laugh, sit down for a meal. And maybe there's snide comments and little digs here and there, but they were never a reason to stop talking. And now it's my way or the highway. This is the result of the division that exists today. I know some people believe it's too late. I've heard this from both sides. What does that mean, it's too late? I don't think it's too late. We are in charge of the system. We may have allowed it to become corrupted, but truly, we have the power to change everything. This was set up in such a way to protect us. However, it's been abused for decades. And now the leaders who take office really feed into the division to win elections. But to win an election for a government seat must mean that for some reason that person stepped out into the public to run for office, passionately believing in the ability to make change. That still exists today, and it's never too late. People can change their lives at a drop of a hat. They can quit smoking, quit drinking, stop eating meat. These are major changes that people undertake every day. Stop doing drugs. But only in a society where people can feel inspired, or they have the ability to educate themselves. And the most important thing is that everybody feels that they have a place to be heard. We are all equally valuable enough to at least be heard. The middle doesn't necessarily mean dropping your values and abandoning support on issues that matter to you. It's more about allowing ourselves to hear an opposing view and share our opposing view so we can talk about it. In these extreme times, there's no middle ground that we can actually have a conversation. It dropped out of the conversation. But I truly believe there are more people willing to meet in the middle than not. We can debate and disagree from the middle ground without tearing each other apart. Meet me in the middle is, for me, all about finding unity in the middle while not losing the balance of diversity. I plan to really start from the beginning of the founding of our nation. So really from 1492. Understanding our founding and why it is up for interpretation when the truth is known is confusing to me. Learning our government structure is important to participating in the direction of our country. Understanding what a republic versus a democracy means in the United States. How is it set up? What does the Constitution really say? What are the Bill of Rights? Has anyone read the Declaration of Independence? How many know more than 3 constitutional amendments by heart? Do people understand the structure in their state and the fact that the state that you live in is where you will be most affected by policy day to day? Government policies, federal government policies, are very important. However, there are more policies in your state that affect your daily lives than there are federal policies that affect your daily lives. Understanding that is really important. The districts and congressional districts, the Electoral College, the census, who's really here, How are the maps drawn? How are they redrawn? These congressional districts drive our federal election. It's really important to understand it. There are many topics that I do want to go down in detail. And I think by starting with these subjects, our founding, our structure, setting up some resources, which I'm currently doing on the website, I really want to help people educate themselves without actually creating more division, misinformation. I want to use this platform as a way for everyone to know where the information is found and the importance of trying to meet in the middle to have the hard conversations that we need to have. For us to all realize that there's no one side that is truly the demise of our country. We as people are not the enemy. The division and those who sow it are the enemy. We must fight against these divisive leaders in order for us to all start to make changes together on policies that drive our nation forward. Healthcare is going to be a big one. Voting rights is going to be a big one. Gun rights is a big one. Education is a big one. These are topics that most people at the base agree on. The basic level of these topics, we all agree that every citizen should have the ability to vote. Every citizen should have access to health care. Every citizen should have an equal standard of education regardless of your starting point. Each citizen should have the ability to exercise the constitutional amendments and the constitutional rights that are afforded us. Free speech, the ability to gun ownership. But before we really start to fight these points out, can we not get to a middle ground where we realize that there's more that binds us than divides us? I believe that to be true, having spent so much time on both sides, understanding the plight of both sides. The rhetoric and the words that are spoken by these elected leaders are the sound bites that people regurgitate. The policies themselves are almost never spoken about. There are things that I agree with in terms of a bill being passed or proposed. That bill should just be that bill. There are needs in this country that are not being met. And I think when people understand how much money we spend in the global arena, they start to think that somehow Americans have been left behind, when actually the discussions we involve ourselves in as a nation overseas help protect our republic by keeping our enemies at bay with our allies. These are important discussions to have, and the understanding of why and what we find ourselves involved with. I don't think anybody ever wants to send our boys and girls to war and sacrifice their lives because of some cause that is not understood or supported in this nation. I think we can all agree that no one wants to see their children sacrificed for a cause that does nothing for our nation's protections, our nation's advancement, our nation's prosperity. And I'm sad to think that people believe that some of these leaders are sacrificing our children for no reason. Have we in the past? For sure. Should we in the future? No. Not without understanding the benefits to Americans' lives and the protection of the United States. This is what I really want to talk about in this podcast. So hopefully this kind of describes what the future episodes will bring. And at one point, once we get to a level where there's enough people interested in talking, understanding, not necessarily agreeing. I'm not asking anyone to agree with any one opinion I have. I will work very hard to leave my opinions out of the conversation until we're actually in a setting where we're debating or talking together with others on the other side. Then we can talk about our opinions. I don't expect anyone to agree with what I think it should be like. All I want is people to understand each other a bit better, as I do see there is more that binds us than divides us. And the only way to have those hard discussions are from a middle position. That is what this means, to meet me in the middle. I refuse to participate in the division any further. It is hard sometimes to not jump in and have an opinion and get angry at the other side. But I am going to do my best to continue on this quest, to stay in the middle and have conversations and not participate in the war that is unnecessary, as we're all Americans who love this country. Some sides would have you believe that people hate this country, or some would have you believe that there's only one side to the story. It's just simply not true. Nobody fights for no reason. People fight because they're passionate about something. So I believe we, as Americans, are passionate and love this country enough to start talking again. So meet me in the middle and let's start talking. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you on the next episode.